good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Oh my gosh. The Mondays just come around too quick. I don't know about you, but Mondays just come around too quick for me. All right. So happy Monday and good evening, everyone. Good evening. Oh my gosh. I'm just really excited tonight because of what God is doing with us. I don't know about you, but seem like because of the time change, I like the long nights because I get to go to bed early. Because I'm an early riser, so I go to bed really early. But I'm just grateful for what God is doing in our lives and thanking God for affording us another privilege just to be in the land of the living. I'm loving that. I'm just so loving the fact that I'm alive and I'm well and I'm healthy. My husband is healthy. My son is healthy. My family members, for the most part, they are healthy. And so I'm just giving God thanks for that. And I don't know. Happy Monday. Welcome to another evening and a session with Prayer for Marriages. I'm really excited tonight about the topic. We're going to be talking about healthy marriages. And that's our focus. That's our goal on this ministry, is that our goal and our motto is saving families one couple at a time, or saving marriages one couple at a time. And if we can do that, and if I can do that, like get one family per week, one family per week to be saved, come out of divorce or separation. If I can just get one family each week, so that would be 52 families for the year, that our goal would have been met. You know, we want more. However, that's our goal, to reach one family a week, you know, with these teachings and with the prayers, and just, you know, just being grateful and thankful to everyone for what he's doing. I'm grateful to God tonight because guess what? No matter what condition you find yourself in or your marriage in, your marriage can be healthy. If it's in an unhealthy state right now, it can become healthy. It will become healthy. And guess what? God can do anything. Long as we put our mind to it, long as we, change our mindset. And I think for the most part, once you change your mindset, everything else works around it. A lot of times, you know, we get stuck in, I want to do it my way. You know, we become Frank Sinatra. We did it, he did it his way. But we're not going to do that. We're going to make a strong, concerted effort to say, you know what? I want to change my marriage. I want my marriage to be fixed. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my mindset of how I view my spouse, how I view our relationship. Are we still going to go through? Yes, we're going to go through, because as humans, we're not all going to always agree. But then we can fix it. We don't have to stay, you know, we don't have to stay in the same mindset of, oh, this and oh, that. So I'm just want to let us know this evening that we can have healthy marriages, right? And I just want to read a little report that I found on a website that states, and this article was by Deb Hirschhorn. He's a PhD, right? And he's a relationship and family marriage relationship expert, right? And so this is what he says. And he did a study back in 2015 on marriages. And he said the marriage rates in the United States, this test was just conducted in the United States. And he says that marriage rates in the United States are declining, according to a demographic intelligence report that was released in 2015. So at 6.74 marriages for every 1,000 people, the current rate is the lowest rate in the century. And they're finding out that marriages, people are not getting married anymore. And so more people are choosing now to just cohabitate, not necessarily to get married. They're just choosing, you know, to live common law, or we would say in the Bible, you know, they're just choosing to shacken up. And I don't think shacking up is just such a pretty word or a cute word. And so, you know, most persons are choosing not to get married, right? And so, but the researchers have shown that two different interpretations of these statistics, and persons are very they're very coy now when it comes to marriage. And so now a lot of times based on our circumstances and based on our situation, most persons are opting out of getting married. And so we're not finding a lot of healthy marriages. We're finding a lot of toxic marriage. And sometimes what we find that is happening in the toxic marriage is that it's a lack of communication and then also a plethora of everything. All right. So again, welcome to those of you that are just joining us. Those of you on Favor FM, bless God for you. Those of you that are on YouTube, bless God for you. Those of you in the Zoom room, welcome, welcome, welcome. Our topic tonight is healthy marriages. Healthy marriage. What makes a healthy marriage? What makes a healthy marriage? If my marriage is not healthy, how can I make it healthy? If when you go to the doctors and they tell you, no, you're not healthy, you do your best to make sure that everything is healthy, right? You make sure that, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do to make your marriage healthy. I mean, make your physical body healthy. So then therefore, when it comes to our marriages, we have to focus on getting it healthy. If you're unhealthy in our bodies, then we start working out or we start eating healthy. We seek a nutritionist. So here it is now in our marriages, when they're not healthy, we're going to seek out a nutritionist for our marriage. We're going to go to counseling and we're going to see what we can do to make our marriages healthy. All right. And so a lot of times now, as we stated in the study, most persons are choosing to cohabitate, right? More than getting married. But marriage, God intended marriage from the beginning. From the beginning, God intended for us to be married, right? The man and the woman, when he created Adam, and he said, when he looked around, he said there were no suitable mate for Adam. And what he did was he put Adam to sleep and took a rib from his side. And so now what we see here is that marriage now is honorable in the sight of God, right? Marriage is an honorable institution in the sight of God. And so therefore now what happened is so many things are happening to change the institution that God set up. All right. And so, but here we are now, we're going to talk about healthy marriages. And there's some strategies or some things that we can do to ensure that our marriages now are healthy. And so what we're going to do, I'm not going to give you them in any specific order in how you can, help to make your marriage healthy. I'm just going to give us some basic solutions, some basic principles that we can have. And I think the first one that I really want to talk about tonight is a connection. Do you and your spouse have a connection? Now, connection is good. And when I say connection, some persons may say, connection, are you attracted to your spouse? Are you attracted to them? And a lot of times that attraction is very good. Now, it can be good and then it can be bad, because you don't just want to have a physical attraction. You want to have intellectual and be spiritually connected to your spouse. And I'm finding that as I study on relationships, that a lot of persons are not connected. They're not connected. Now, most of us want to connect with people in one way or the other, right? Many and all of us, we consider meaningful connections, whether these connections are with friends, family, or significant others. We want to feel a certain connection, and there has to be a connection with our spouses. Because if there's no connection, then, it's going to seem like it's forced, right? Now, we want to make sure that we are now that person, or we now become the most important part of their lives, right? Now, when we get married, nobody gets married to get divorced, right? So, when you're dating, you're courting, you're not thinking divorce, you're not thinking separation, you're thinking this is my life partner. And so I want to feel that connection, right? I want to feel that connection. I want their lives to be connected with mine and vice versa, right? And I want my desires to be their desires for for everything, right? Now, we want to have a listening ear. We want them to have a listening ear. We want validation from our spouse. And that all comes with being connected, and validation now is a sticky thing. When I started, I was like, I said, because a lot of times women especially, and men too, but for the most part, women love validation. We just love to be validated, right? And so a lot of times when we don't get that validation, something triggers in us. And we feel like, you know what, they don't love me. We feel like, you know what, our spouse can do better. And probably, yes, they can do better. However, if you're not already validating within yourself, then it's going to be hard now, or a challenge, when your spouse don't validate you. I love when my husband validate me, like, because I'm a minister as well. I preach, right? And so after a message, I would say to him, how did I do? Because I need validation. Yes, the Lord validates and he does all of that. But I want my husband to say, this is, give me pointers, and, be my critic, and also be my biggest cheerleader, which that he is. I cannot say that he's not, because he is my biggest cheerleader. My husband is my biggest cheerleader, and he validates it, right? You want to have somebody that's connected to you who's going to understand. Yes, who's going to be understanding. Oh, Lord Jesus. And I know a lot of times we don't get that. We don't get that because a lot of times persons feel like, oh, I don't need to validate him or her. But yes, we need validation. We need to make sure that, what we're doing is correct, and we just want validation. Now, these elements serve as basis establishment for a good connection. And these are benefits from the connection. You have somebody that's going to affirm you, validate you, and cheer you on, and understand you, right? Now, what is a relationship without understanding? Oh, Jesus, yes. What is a relationship without understanding? It doesn't make any sense, correct? It doesn't make any sense that, okay, so my spouse don't understand me. We want our spouse to understand us. We want to make sure that what we're doing is understandable to our husband, and they have that say, you know what, I understand this is what you're going through. When I'm not saying conflict is not going to arise, but because you have that connection, and they're going to know that, okay, if she's being miserable, oh, maybe it's that time of the month, or maybe not. Or maybe I just had a bad day at work, or maybe he just had a bad day at work, or something is troubling him. So when you have that connection, you can know when something doesn't sit too right with your spouse. All right. And so, and I'm always like, when I speak to my husband on video, and if his voice don't sound a certain way, or his voice or his face look some kind of way, I'm like, okay, so what's the problem? Well, what's going on with you? And he'll say, oh, nothing, I'm just stressed from work. I'm like, okay. And then he'll start talking and telling me. Sometimes when you have a good connection, your spouse just need that listening ear. All right. And so that's all about the connection. This connection is not limited to just marriage, right? When you have interpersonal relationship, you and your kids, you and your friends, you and your other family members, when you have connection with people, it means a lot, right? It can be experienced within the context of a friendship, like, and I say parent, child, or even with your siblings, right? Sometimes I hear people say, I don't have a connection with my siblings. And I'm like, wow, really? And so we need to have that connection. And it's not only with our spouses, but with persons in our circle, in our immediate circle. We need to make sure that there is a connection, all right? We need to make sure that there's a connection. A strong connection always and often serves as a foundation upon which other elements are built. So once you have that sure foundation, that firm foundation, everything else is built on that, on the connection. Everything else that I'm going to list tonight is built on the connection. So if the foundation of the connection is sure and strong, then everything else that comes underneath it, you will be able to be more understanding to your spouse and with your spouse, because you're going to say, you know what? Now I understand. Now I understand when he's silent. And I can only say he, right? Because I'm married to, my husband. And I can say, okay, so this means if he's quiet, he's either meditating, the Lord gave him a word, or he has a lot on his mind. And I'll wait till he's ready to talk, right? And a lot of times, if we don't have that connection, I may by default think he's upset when he's not, right? And vice versa. Because sometimes when I'm quiet too, he sometimes thinks I'm just weird anyway, all right? So the next thing we're going to talk about with having a healthy marriage or developing healthy marriage is, the first one I talk about is connection. And again, I'm not putting these in any specific order. I'm just doing them as, as I'm looking at this thing. Now, the next thing is commitment. The big C, commitment, right? The big C, commitment. Are you committed to your partner? Are you committed to being in this relationship? Are you committed to be within this conglomerate? Are you committed to be in this covenant? Because marriage is a covenant that you make with someone. So are you going to be committed to it, right? Now, being committed to it is not just on the wedding, during the wedding ceremony, the reception, the honeymoon, but for the rest of your life. Are you going to be committed? Are you willing to be committed to this person? And that's what a lot of times some persons don't have. They don't have that commitment part of it. And so sometimes it breeds now misunderstanding, and it misconstrues a whole lot of stuff. So when we say now that, we're committed to our spouse, we're committed to them. And that's a serious thing, because we find that a lot of times persons are not committed. And then that causes a problem. It causes a serious problem when we are not committed, or when persons are not committed to the relationship. When you're not committed to the relationship, it's like you've zoned out, you're not there anymore, and you're like thinking, wow, am I really gonna be married to this person forever? And I don't feel a connection. They're not committed to me. What is happening? Now, commitment is enjoyable, my God. Commitment, you cannot have commitment without a connection, right? And so now, commitment means that, I'm committed to this through thick and thin. I'm there with you. We take the vows for better, for worse. And for the most part, what I'm seeing is through studies, right, is that when it gets to worse, you want to jump ship, right? But you tend to forget. We tend to forget that we said for better, for worse, and the worst could be anything. The worst could be infidelity. That could be the worst, right? The worst could be maybe loss of income. And so, but when you're committed, you say, you know what? We're going to get through this. We will get through this. With God's help, we're going to get through this, right? So when you're committed to the person, it's long term. It's long term. And I'm finding that some long-term couples who have been cohabitating, they say, why get married? Why get married? But when you make that commitment to say, you know what, I'm going to get married. I want to make this legit, right? And I'm in it for the long haul, right? Now, cohabitating like marriage can end at any time. Like marriage can end at any time. But when you have a commitment, there is a difference. There is a difference to lie in the beginning, not the ending, right? For some, cohabitation might begin with a short shrug, or let's see if we can make this work, right? And it's often an experiment. Now, that experiment may take 20 years. So now, after 20 years of cohabitating, oh, this is not working. And then now that person who's been cohabitating with a person for 20 years feels some kind of way because they say, listen, you feel like I've wasted 20 years with one person when I could have been in another committed relationship and being married. And sometimes out of their cohabitation brings children. It brings property, it brings assets. And it's still as if, if you're breaking up, you still have to go through the legal channels, especially if it's a business. Then if you have children, you still have to get custody, whether it be joint or full. So, then there will be child support, so we have to be careful. So I think I would rather be married for 20 years than being in an experiment for 20 years. Right? I just it's just something about being married and being in a committed relationship for me, right? That works better for me. I would rather be married for 20 years than being in a relationship that's going nowhere. That's just an experiment. Or maybe today it's going to work, tomorrow it's not going to work. No, right? Now, we have to make sure that once you're committed, you're committed with flaws and all your flaws, right? You got to know that, a lot of times, like my husband, he from the moment we got married or got together, he always tell me he doesn't like women who are too on the heavier side. He doesn't like it, right? And I was pretty much this size when I got married, just a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller. Right. And so over the years, with time and eating and going out to eat all the time and just laying around, you know what I'm saying? You gain a few pounds. And so he was saying to me, he's like, oh, I see somebody, putting on some extra pounds, but you keep bringing me ice cream. I love ice cream, right? And so a lot of times he'll start laughing. And if he's on the road, I was like, babe, pick me up some ice cream. And he's like, you sure you want ice cream? Yeah, but then I pay the consequences. I pay for it because then I'll gain some weight. But because he's committed, he does not allow that to bother him. And I just use my weight as an example. You know what I mean? Not taking away anything from anyone who is struggling with their weight, because our weight as women is a very sensitive topic. You know what I mean? It can make or break a thing, right? And so because we're committed, and I'm committed to that, I'm committed to him. I'm committed to our marriage. I'm committed to the union that God put together. All right. And so that's commitment. We've got to realize that we have to be committed, right? So the next thing that's on list of getting and gaining a healthy marriage is respect. Respect, RESPECT, right? Aretha Franklin had it down pat. Respect, even given from the heart, does not mean much if you don't respect our partner. If we don't respect our partner, if we don't respect them, the commitment, it means nothing. We got to make sure that we respect them with the connection and the commitment. We've got to make sure that we respect our partners. You have to make sure you respect your spouse, right? And a lot of times, some persons feel like I don't need to respect my spouse. If they disrespect me, I'm going to disrespect them. But that's not the way of the Lord. Right? And so as women, as wives, and even as husbands, we are to love husband. The Bible tells the man, Husband, love your wife like Christ loved the church and gave his life for it, right? And women were to submit to him as he submit to Christ, And so when we get that respect factor down pat, we're doing a very marvelous and awesome thing. But I'm finding that a lot of times there's no respect. And where there is no respect, there's not going to be much commitment, and there's not going to be a connection, because nobody wants to feel disrespected. Nobody wants to get disrespected, And so we must be very careful when it comes to respecting our spouse. And a lot of times I hear women and men, but mostly men say, oh, my wife don't respect me. She put so-and-so before me. Oh, Lord, I'm going to touch this right here. Because a lot of time, especially in the culture of the church, we tend to show the pastor, if you have a male pastor or even a female pastor, you tend to show that person more respect than your spouse. And it's causing havoc in the relationship. Your spouse asks you to do something. Oh, pastor need me to do this at church. Huh? Who are you married to? Who's paying your bills? What? Come on now. When you tend to want to respect someone else outside your home instead of your spouse, it creates hurdles. And we don't want any hurdles. We don't want any hurdles. I remember when I was in school and I used to run track. Oh, yeah. I used to run track. Yeah, I used to run track. And so hurdles was not my best sport. It was not my best event on the field, right? And so because I was not a high jumper, so I couldn't jump too high, but I could sprint, right? And so we don't want to build hurdles in our relationship by showing persons outside of the house or outside of our marital house more respect than we do our spouse. Even family members. You should not respect family members more than you respect your spouse, whether it be the wife's family or the husband's family. And my mother is on here. If I'm talking to my mom and my husband is calling, I'm like, Mom, I gotta go. My husband is calling. I'm like, Mom, Renard is calling. I'll call you back. And I hang up on my mother. I love my mother dearly, but my husband is before my mother. And I know a lot of people don't think that the spouse should be before your parent, but you leave and cleave. Right? You leave and cleave. And so a lot of times persons can't comprehend leaving and cleaving, because for the most part, you have not left a mother or father. So then there's now that line of respect may not be there. Right? And so, or maybe you left your mom by herself and you feel obligated now to show your parent more respect than your spouse, because that parent's been there for you. Yes, and your parent did their job. They did a marvelous job. They raised a marvelous husband. They raised a marvelous wife. And so now you're married. Your spouse is before your parents, right? And so you're going to give that respect. And I don't think any parent should want to put their kid in a place where they need to choose between their spouse and them. Right? That's not cool at all. Everyone have a place in their life. My mother have a space in my life. My husband have a space in my life. My nieces, nephews, different friends have a place in my life. But just know it's God, my husband, and then everybody comes afterwards. And so once you get that in your spirit and in your heart and in your mind, then you say, you know what? Let me really do this, because a lot of times, especially male, when they don't feel respected, they feel some type of way. When a man don't feel respected, he feels some type of way. And no matter what you say to him, he's going back to saying, he's always going to go back to say, oh, you don't respect me. So ladies and gentlemen, let's work on that. Let's work on the respect. Let's work on the fact that, you know what, I want to get respect, right? And respect is earned. You can't force respect from anybody. Respect is earned. Respect comes from a deep understanding of our significant others. And I always tell wives, learn the temperature of your spouse. And I tell it to men too. Learn the temperature of your husband. Learn the temperature of your wife. Know what's going to trigger them. Know what can trigger them. Respect also might grow with the marriage. The longer you're married to your spouse, the more you may respect them, or the less you might respect them. So let's now, if you're not respecting your spouse, start respecting and watch the temperature in the home. Watch the tension in the home. Once you start respecting your spouse, watch their reaction to certain things. Right. And so let us be mindful. It's always mindful to want to respect and love and honor your spouse, because you did say that in the vows. You did say love, honor, and keep. Right. We did say that. That's part of the marital vow, honor. Now, in the Bible, the Bible said that Sarah respected Abraham and she called him Lord. Not Lord of Lords, but Lord. She Lord him. That means she reverenced him and she honored him. And so likewise did Abram. He honored and respected and reverenced his wife. And so once you get that in your spirit and in your head to start honoring your spouse, your life will be a whole lot better. Trust and believe me. Your husband, your husband is the queen, you're the king. When you treat him like the king, you'll be treated like the queen, and vice versa. Treat her like a queen if you want to be treated like a king. Respect and honor her. Remember, the wife is a part of you. That's your rib. Remember, we are one. And when one, if we are one, if your head is hurting, that means mine is going to hurt as well. Lord help me this evening. Let me tell you something. I'm always mindful of how I speak to my husband. I've always been very mindful of that, because number one, I don't like to be disrespected, right? And I would never ever disrespect my husband in public. And he says the same thing, because he's like, babe, don't ever embarrass me in public. And I feel the same way. Don't ever embarrass me in public. That's just the worst thing you can do, is just embarrass me in public. I don't like that. Even with my mom, like, don't embarrass me, mom. Don't embarrass me in public. I don't like that. Public humiliation just does something for your energy. It just makes you feel, you know what I mean? So let us try our best now to respect and honor our spouses, right? Now, our understanding of who our partner is as a person and our respect for the qualities that make up our partner often leads to the growth of admiration. I admire my husband. He has that tenacity, like that, like the Timex watch. He takes a licking and keeps on ticking. I admire that about my husband. My husband will never let me know if, like, purposely, if something is not going right. And he has a very astute way of hiding it, but I always find out. Because I'll catch his face. I'll catch his expression a certain way, and I'm like, hold up, what's going on with that face? Why is their face like that, right? So because I know him, right? And over the years, I've come to know his silence. I come to know if he's speaking. I come to know his facial expression. So if I see a facial expression, I'm like, something is going on. What's up? I'm like, what's up, brother? What's up, brother, man? What's going on in that head of yours? You know what I mean? And so when we get the chance to know them, and when we understand, and I think that's what we need to get. The Bible says, in all our getting, get understanding, right? And so when we understand that, my husband doesn't talk loud, and he hates loudness, right? The only loudness he likes is when we're at church, right? Or when he's at church, or when he's preaching, he speaks loud. But my husband is a very quiet, low-key person. And I understand that about him. So I know he's not going to be loud. He's not going to talk loud. He's not going to get too excited about much, right? But I understand that about him. I understand that's his personality. That's his character, right? And I'm not trying to change it. I love that about him because I'm loud and boisterous. So we can't have 200s in the room, right? One got to be 50 or 10 and one got to be 100. We can't have 200s because woo, that would be a volcano waiting to erupt, right? And so I understand him, and I understand the qualities that he has that makes him a good husband and a good provider, right? And a good priest of our homes, right? And I say homes because Jamaica and in the US, right? And so that I admire that about him. I'm going to give you our homework for tonight. What do you admire about your spouse? Mm-hmm. Do you understand your spouse? Do you understand your spouse? I'm going to give you homework. You know, what do you most like best? What do you most admire best about your spouse? Yeah, I want to give you something to think about, right? And so respect now grows when the marriage grows and when the individual grows and become more mature. Now, when a marriage is troubled, or when one or both partners have lost their respect for the other due to mistakes, due to choices they've made, or other issues, right? You know, watching a partner withstand trials, you know, we're making different choices. We need to help now our partners if we are able to help them make better choices, right? We need to help now our partners doing their different issues if we are able to help them. Okay, so I'm going to bring up this issue. Like say, for instance, your partner somehow, some way get addicted to some kind of substance, narcotics or alcohol, right? Substance abuse, any form of substance abuse. You know, our spouse, you know, all of a sudden they're drinking or they're taking drugs, right? And now that's an issue. Are you just going to put them away because now they're an addict? Or are you going to support and help them? We can't just leave them out there in the cold. We've got to help support. Now, this is all that will help make a healthy marriage, right? And so we're going to respect when issues come up, when issues arises, we're not going to be so dogmatic. Oh, I told you so. Yes, we know you told them so, but how about helping them out? Lifting them up when they're down, right? Building them up, right? Building their ego. We know, ladies, men love their ego stroke. Stroke that ego. Listen, remember, that's your king. So we're going to stroke the ego. Yes, I'm going to stroke the ego of my king. Yes. Just like we like compliments, so do they. But if our spouse has fallen in a trap, in an issue and something, and they need our help, we're going to help lift them. And as women of God, for those of us that can pray, let's start praying more. And I know some issues there's going to take counseling, it's going to take the hammer, it's going to take the nail, it's going to take some plywood, it's going to take some sealant. But let's get all these building tools together so that we can build up our spouse, not just the men, but the women. You know, husbands, if your wife now becomes you know, an addict to substance or alcohol, any kind of substance abuse, you're going to build her, get her some help. Remember, that's your queen. And you don't want to, you know, if she looks bad in the street, you're going to look bad in the street. I remember a colleague of mine was telling me, you know, when much earlier in her marriage, she was, you know, hooked on drugs and stuff like that. You know, she would take every and all pieces of jewelry and sell them that her husband would give her. And people would be telling him, oh, leave her, right? But he loved her. He respected her. He was committed to her. He had a connection with her. So he's like, I'm not going to give up on her. I'm not going to give up. Sometimes we just give up too quick. We're in it till death. you know. And I know sometimes things happen, and things happen to let that forever be shortened. All right. And so the next thing that we can do in having or creating or building a healthy marriage is giving. And I remember a few weeks back, I said, you know, start sowing into your spouse. You know, so if you don't have the money financially, sow some love. Show him some love. Show him some affection. Sow into him. Speak into his spirit. You know, speak words of affirmation to him. My God, speak words of affirmation to her. Build her up. Let her know she's the prettiest thing in the world. I read somewhere where this young lady, she wanted her husband to let the world know. She wanted the world to know that, you know, that she said, babe, I want you to let the world to know that you love me. Shout it from the rooftop. And I think they were on a rooftop at a restaurant eating. I think there's a restaurant called a Rooftop, and it's literally on a rooftop. And she was like, shout that everybody can hear. And he leaned into her and whispered into her ear and said, I love you. And she said, I know, but you're only telling me. And he said to her, you are my world. My God, woo, I felt something right there, right? I felt that right there. We are each other's world. Nobody else matters. Nobody else matters. Because when your husband is your world, you don't mind giving to them. And we give unselfishly. We give unselfishly. We give unconditionally, right? Now, it's more important. Let me tell you something. Giving in a marriage is so important. And I think it's more important than everything else that will make a marriage run smoothly is giving. Giving of our time, giving of ourselves to our spouse, both the man and the woman. And I find a lot of time the women give more than they get. And then there's an unbalance there. But men, let's step it up. Please step it up a notch, right? Step it up a notch in the giving aspect when it comes to your spouse. You know, when one partner focuses solely on self. Now you have some very selfish spouses, very, very selfish, right? And so they focus mainly on them. And so what happens is because they're selfish and they don't want to give anything, you know, what a person may feel left out. But that doesn't make a healthy marriage. Listen, if you're the only one giving in your relationship, then you already know that you're already feeling some type of way. You're feeling like, you know what, my spouse is so selfish. They're just too selfish, and I can't take it. But when it comes to a point where you say, you know what, let me start giving more to my spouse. Let's start giving more to our spouses. Let's give more, right? Let's give more than we actually get to our spouses. So that, you know, sometimes I said to myself, my husband gives so much. And I think we try to compete to see who's going to give the most, not necessarily financial or material, but the love and the attention. Like sometimes when we're on the phone and we're talking, and I'll say, I love you. He's like, man, you beat me to it this time, right? So it's like we're in a competition to see who's gonna say it first, right? And I love it when I beat him to it, because it just makes me feel good, right? And then we're and it's not about trying to beat him, but sometimes I'll do it when he's in mid-sentence, because I know sometimes if I let him finish, he's going to say it first, right? And so the giving of oneself unselfishly to our spouse, right? Now, a person now may also give out of fear. A person may give out of fear, and then that's not good. You should never give to your partner out of fear, whatever the situation may be. You shouldn't give it out of fear. However you're giving, it should not be out of fear, but it should be from a sincere heart, from a sincere place in your heart. You say, you know what? I want to give to my spouse unconditional love. I want to give them unconditionally. I don't want to be selfish, but I want to be committed. And because I'm committed, I want to give to them unselfishly. Now, when you give out of fear alone, this type of giving comes from a lack of self-esteem. If you don't have self-esteem, then you'll give out of fear or you don't believe in yourself internally. I remember on Thursday night on our Before You Say I Do, I asked a question: who are you? Who are you before you get married? Where's that person? Remember, you are an individual, a whole individual person before you got married. And sometimes we lose that. Sometimes we lose our identity. But we're not supposed to lose our identity by giving so much, our identity, by giving so much. We've got to make sure we're holding our own and know who we are so that we can give unselfishly, right? And give confidently, you know? And sometimes we feel like, sometimes as individuals, and I'm not going to say male or female, sometimes as individual, we don't feel worthy of love. We don't feel worthy of the love our spouse gives to us for whatever reason or not. Sometimes we come in with so much baggage that we don't give. We can't give and we won't give because we're holding it as a security blanket, like Linus from what's the cartoon from Peanuts? Yes, he's holding on to that blanket. As dirty as that blanket is, he won't allow his mother to wash it. Why? Because he's selfish with it. It's his security blanket. And sometimes we hold on to our insecurities in our relationship, and it does not make the marriage healthy. Lord Jesus, I'm feeling now like somebody is feeling like, this is maybe why I can't give to my spouse what they really want, because I'm lacking in so many areas. I'm feeling insecure. And I think we might talk about that next week. Insecurities within our own selves, right? That may be our topic for next session, right? And so we can't give because we're so insecure. We don't feel like we're worthy of love. There's no self-worth there, right? And so oftentimes we become needy and clingy. Oh gosh. And when we get like this, we think that so many things is going on with our spouse when it's really not. And we keep we become clingy and needy. And then if our spouse go out and stay for a day or two, they're going on a business trip, all kinds of thoughts keep going in our head. I'm going on business, babe. And so we've got to make sure that we're not giving and giving out of fear, right? Now, when we're like this is not an element of love. This is not an element of love. And we've got to be careful. We've got to be careful that we're not giving to our spouses out of fear, out of low self-worth. Let's build up our self-worth, right? Let's build up ourselves so that we don't mind now giving to our spouses unselfishly. Now, the next thing I want to discuss is, oh my gosh, the time is running away from us. Trust. I believe, and like many people around the world believe, that when there is a solid mutual connection, commitment, giving, and respect, the trust partners have for each other cannot be broken. I believe, I'm going to say it again, I believe strongly that when there is a solid mutual connection, solid commitment, solid giving, and solid trust and solid respect, the trust we have for our partners, the trust that we have for each other cannot be broken. Let's think about that for a moment. Because you know, when you have that connection, when you're committed, you know you're committed, he's committed, she's committed, you know that you don't mind, you give unselfishly. He respects my belief, he respects my feeling. I do the same for him. Then the trust is there. But when you enter into the relationship and there's no trust, that's a disaster already for stuff to happen, because you're always going to be thinking in the back of your mind, this person really don't love me. But trust has to be there. You have to say, you know what, know that game that we all played in school, a person is behind you and you fall back and you know they're going to catch you. You trust that that person is going to stand behind you, and as you fall, going to catch you. How many of us, or how many of you can say, you know what, if I know my spouse will not allow me to fall. I know that my spouse, I trust him so much. He's committed to me. We have a connection. He gives unselfishly. He respects me. So I trust him. I trust her. When we trust, nobody, no third party can come and tell you anything at all about your spouse. When you trust your spouse, nobody can come and say anything to you. But why? Because they've never given you a reason to doubt. And so in building a healthy marriage and keeping a healthy marriage, or creating a healthy marriage, or sustaining a healthy marriage, or strengthening your marriage, trust factor has to be there. That trust factor must be there. If that trust factor is not there, then the commitment won't be there, the respect won't be there, the giving won't be there, and the connection will be gone. We've got to make sure that that trust factor is there. And I know from time to time, most persons this is not your first relationship. So you're entering into this relationship with other ideologies from past relationships. And you've had bad breakups, and you've been in bad relationships, and you couldn't trust this person, and you couldn't trust that person. But here's this person now coming to you to say, trust me. And you're in the back of your mind, your mouth is saying, yeah, I trust you. But in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't think I trust you at all. I don't know. But when you trust somebody, undoubtedly, unwavering, and I know, the Bible says, the arm of flesh will fail us. But your spouse, I'm not expecting that my husband is going to do something for me to mistrust him. No, I have the confidence in my husband that he's not going to do anything to break the trust, and vice versa, right? So if the trust is not there, I'm going to say it again. If the trust is not there, the connection is not there, the commitment won't be there, the giving won't be there, right? And the respect won't be there. But this is all what constitutes to help you build and maintain a healthy marriage. Last but not least, and I think I saved the best for last, and it's going to get the least amount of time. Intimacy, right? Into me you see, right? Most people immediately relate intimacy to sex. Most people does that. Most people relate intimacy with sex. Listen, look at here. We're all adults. You can have sex without being intimate, right? Having sex now can serve as a way of avoiding intimacy. Oh, let me just do this. Let me just get this over. Like he's washing the dishes. Let me just do these dishes. No. Intimacy, my God. Intimacy starts before you hit the bedroom. The most important element of intimacy are openness and honesty. Openness and honesty. That's the most important element of intimacy. Honesty and openness. My God, I'm getting excited here, and the hour is almost up. Both of which may require the sharing of things that one is ashamed of. So if you're ashamed to show your body in the light, oh Lord Jesus, get used to your body, right? Yet being able to be vulnerable. Intimacy now, when you talk about intimacy, you talk about being vulnerable to your partner. And then now that's the very ingredient that makes the act of sex one of such supreme closeness and well-loved intimacy. When you can become vulnerable with all of your flaws, with all of his flaws and her flaws, when you can become vulnerable and let it all out, and you say, you know what, let me tell you something. You can be open, you can be honest. Woo, when you become one, when you get intimate, woo, talk about sparks flying before the intercourse. Woo, the foreplay would be awesome. But it's not just sex. And I hear a lot of women, men, the shoe is on your foot tonight. A lot of times women say, my husband is not intimate with me. And I'm like, what? And I say, out of my ignorance, oh, there's no sex. She's like, no, there's sex, but I don't feel that, listen. And I have to say, listen, then you have to do something. Spark it up from midday. Send some texts. You know what I mean? Say, I can't wait for you to get home tonight. Woo, I got a surprise for you. And have a surprise for them when they come home. And men, if it's you that is home during the day, have a surprise for her when she come home. And that doesn't necessarily mean having a dinner ready, but have a nice little surprise. Be creative. Be creative, men. Be creative, women, because intimacy is very, very important in a relationship. I think sometimes intimacy is more important than money. Even though we need the money after the intimacy, because intimacy is not going to pay a bill. But the intimacy is very, very important element in our marriage. The vulnerability of the real intimacy can be compared to the thrill ride of a roller coaster, or of a good sumptuous meal. Like, I enjoyed that, right? And so that's another homework for you to do, for you to do, right? You're gonna make sure that you understand your partner, right? Understanding them. And then you're going to become intimate. Just for a moment, we could lose everything in that moment, in the term of partnership, in that moment that we are one. A whole lot of deals is made when you're intimate. Ladies, come on. Somebody messaged me on Zoom and said they're requesting part 2. All right, next week we'll have part 2. And I think I'll continue with the intimacy on part 2, right? We need affection. Evangelist Nikki say, women need affection, men need sex. We're going to take it to the next level next week, because a lot of times we're not being intimate. Men, listen, men, we want intimacy. We want intimacy. So we're going to do a part 2, right? And so I thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, those of you on Favor FM Radio. Thank you so much to Pastor Natalie and Pastor Dr. Sheldon Evans. Thank you both so much for allowing us to be on the radio. Thank you to all my Zoom watchers and Zoom invitees. Thank you for coming on Zoom tonight. Thank you for those on YouTube. Make sure you like and share this video. And please hit the notification button. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right. We're only at 135. And I know a lot of people. Come on, I want 1,000 or more subscribers. All right, let's end the year great. All right, so next week we're going to come back with part 2 of healthy marriage, and we're going to talk about more intimacy. We're going to get into it. All right, intimacy, because there are some other things that need to explore with this intimacy thing, because a lot of times we're not getting that intimacy and we feel some kind of way, right? So we're going to, ladies, we're going to put away our insecurities. Men, we're going to put away our insecurities, and we're going to become vulnerable with each other. All right. God bless you. I love you. Have an awesome week, and see you next Monday at 7 p.m. again for Prayer for Marriages, right here on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Favor FM. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening and good night. Good night, all.